So we know that Les Wexner was very entangled with Jeffrey Epstein. At one point, Jeffrey Epstein was Les Wexner's power of attorney, and they traded properties between each other in a very weird way. I mean, I wish I had friends that I could trade multiple mansions with, but these people traded them like they were baseball cards. At one point, Jeffrey Epstein gave his home in New Albany, Ohio, to Les Wexner's wife, which literally gave it to her for $0. And we know that Jeffrey Epstein's 40-room townhouse in Manhattan was previously owned by Les Wexner and his wife, and he sold it to Jeffrey Epstein, basically making himself the bank, giving a loan to Jeffrey Epstein that he paid back over time. But one of the properties that people are not talking about is the Plantation in Georgia. Now, we know that Les Wexner is obsessed with Albany for whatever reason. He named his town New Albany, Ohio, but in Albany, Georgia, there was a plantation that Les Wexner bought and named the Abigail Plantation after his wife. And see, when I saw Albany on this listing of this property, I immediately just assumed New Albany, Ohio. I didn't think Albany, Georgia, because why would you? And I think that's by design. I think that they name these things similarly and put them in similar places, similarly named places, in order to confuse people and make them harder to look up. And when you look up the address for this property, it's listed on Google as Law Plantation Co., Agricultural Service in Dougherty County, Georgia. And when you search for Law Plantation Company LLC, that LLC is still active, not permanently closed. But look, it was moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. And when you look up the new address for the plantation, it shows this like business center, shopping center. At first, I thought maybe it's one of those P.O. box centers, but when you look up the Suite 400, a bunch of different things show up, like a law firm and a foundation and some other law adjacent things. So maybe it's one law firm that's taking up Suite 400, or it's something in Suite 400 that's being used as a base for all of these businesses. And then I was like, well, how far is Scottsdale, Arizona, where this office is, to Zorro Ranch? And it's, a hike. It's 7.5 hour drive. And then I thought about this email from Jeffrey's emails where he's renting a car. It seems pretty innocuous because he's going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona. Jeffrey did have business in Scottsdale. He donated to, I think it was Arizona State University, and Noam Chomsky was meeting with him and Steve Bannon in Arizona. So it's possible that he rented a car to run between Steve Bannon and doing business and whatever, but it's also possible that he rented a car while he was in Scottsdale, did some business, and drove the 7.5 hours to Zorro Ranch. Okay, sure. And then I also found this Reddit thread about the plantation itself and someone who lives in this area in Georgia saying that it is a very small town, a very poor area, one of the poorest in the country. And there was enough room out there for them to use it as its own like landing pad for aircrafts and things like that. We know Ghislaine had a helicopter license and that they were working with different pilots and things like that. So they probably were flying in people. And there were stories from this area during the time of rich guys being around town, which is something that a small, poor, rural area would notice. And they were purposefully seeking out low-income people, people who needed opportunities. So it's very odd, but also seems possible with everything we know now, that they were using this land to possibly do hunting or to relax or start a business, or they were possibly doing other things out on this property because it was purchased before Little St. James was purchased. It's like 100 times the size of Little St. James, and it's pretty secluded because it's so rural. So it's possible that this plantation was also being used for nefarious acts between Jeffrey Epstein and his rich friends, and no one's talking about it.